Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Monday, February 18th, 2019. Happy Monday, happy President's Day. We hope everyone had a great weekend. I know Mari and I definitely took some time to recharge and continue to tool this page, thegrandsolarminimum.com. Anyway, let's get right into it with some space weather news, guys. Let's take a look at our solar conditions. Actually, we'll start off at thegrandsolarminimum.com. And with solar wind speeds right now sitting at 354.6 kilometers per second with a density of 3.8. Taking a look at sunspots. Well, right now, nothing to report on. 0 sunspots. This is now 19 days in a row without sunspots, I do believe. We're sitting at 32 for 2019. You take a look at our KP indices, they're very low. We've peaked at a 3 in the last 48 hours. Other than that, we're averaging about a 1 KP. Solar X-ray flux is non-existent whatsoever. Solar proton flux has stayed the same as well. Taking a look at the SDO in motion, and there is a coronal hole that we will be feeling the effects of. They say by February 20th we should see some elevated solar wind speeds. And with the KP indices as low as they've been, it wouldn't be too cliche to go ahead and call out a possible strong 7.0 or higher earthquake watch here in the next 24 to 72 hours. So we'll keep our eyes on that as well. Other than that, no sunspots to report. I know this active region here, every one of you thought it possibly could have been a sunspot, and it just never happened. So looking at the entire star, except for that missing section, obviously. But right now, we do not have any active regions here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel that we believe that are anything to be concerned about or track. So we will continue to see a spotless sun as we march into 2019. And like I said, we're sitting at 32 days spotless here in 2019 already in the first 40 to 50 days. So quite an impressive run thus far. Of course, we do realize that peak, or I should say the bottom of solar minimum, should be right around 2020 as we see 2019 possibly getting into solar cycle 25 later on this year. All right, let's take a look at our TSI. Now, I wanted to bring up a couple of values here. We haven't been on the air since Friday, so for February 4th, we had TSI at 1360.5544, and then it dropped even a little bit lower the next day to 1360.5469, and it stayed in that 1360.5 range for a couple of days. And just recently have we seen it recover. As of February 9th, 2019, we are now sitting at 1360.6691. But to see the TSI hanging around in the 0.5 values for consecutive days is something that we haven't really observed here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel, to see a group of TSI numbers like that. Usually it's a brief touch and go from the 0.5 values, and that's the lowest we've seen our TSI over the past several months. So as you can see where we're sitting at right now, we're only talking about a value change of 0.11, but that's how slow this is. That's how slow this whole TSI change is from time to time. But to see it consecutive from February 4th all the way through February, it looks like the 8th, before it finally reached back to values near the 0.6. So 4 days in a row that TSI was red in the 1360.5 value. We are entering solar minimum, and we can only expect to see TSI to continue to drop. And I know this is hard for a lot of you folks to see. Pardon me. I'm going to zoom this in if I can. I want to show you guys the bottom of this chart. This is a good way to measure where we are as far as TSI. You see right here at the end of solar max, we're near this top of the graph where this line is. This line is nothing. This line is just merely showing us the top of the graph. But look how far away our TSI continues to drop away from 2014. And we try to correlate that with previous times, and we've seen right about the same levels that we're seeing right now for 2008 through 2010. Maybe that time was a little deeper. So we haven't even really officially begun to bottom out, so to speak. So we're comparing that drop to this one so far. And like I said, late 2019, 2020 is a possibility for solar cycle 25, and also the bottom or the peak part of this minimum. So we will continue to monitor this. Now, what's concerning is, you hear a lot about the grand solar minimum, and I still stand on the ground that we'll see a weak solar cycle 25, and then we will bump into that grand solar minimum beginning in 2031. But there is concern amongst people out in the community that it could be a 2020 introduction for the grand solar minimum, meaning that this is going to be a sudden snap to where we just plunge into the grand solar minimum. Again, my stance, myself, I believe it to be in 2031. But, we can't sit here and discredit the information that's out there that says we could plunge into one by 2020 as well. And so, I just kind of wanted to show this tonight to talk about if this minimum is deeper than the one we had in 2009 and 2010, and that was supposed to be the deepest minimum we had in 150 years. Well, it's you have to bring the fact up that there are people saying 2020, and there are people saying that it's going to happen a lot more sudden. I don't want to completely phase all those possibilities out, is all I'm saying. I'm not agreeing with it or disagreeing with it. I'm just saying in this topic right now, you have to stay aware of everything that's happening, not just, one phase of this complete cycle. And, the weather is another example of that, where Joe Bastardi, and I love this guy, he did an update today and cited himself for being wrong about a certain forecast. I wouldn't say that he's wrong, but at least he's humble enough to admit that the cold and the snow that he thought was coming for the Northeast and the East isn't quite taking shape. We're seeing warmer temperatures. So even a person like Joe doesn't let ego get in the way. He wants the truth too. He wants to help everyone understand what's happening. And what we're witnessing right now is weather. Plain and simple. It's weather. Is solar activity have something to do with that? I'll get to that later in the broadcast. Let's take a look at some headlines. We'll start off at watchers.news. Rare snow blankets Las Vegas. Black ice forces road closures in Nevada. After heavy rain and widespread flooding across Las Vegas Valley on February 14th, the region was hit by snow, dumping a winter storm on Sunday, February 17th, 2019. Authorities are reporting black ice on the roads early this morning, closing some of them and urging drivers to pay extra attention. Numerous car crashes were reported that day or today, including one that was fatal. Up to 2 inches of snow has accumulated in Las Vegas western areas, causing traffic issues throughout the area. The last time the city saw measurable snow was in December of 2008. That was 3.6 inches. And what happened in 2008? The very beginning of the solar minimum cycle. All right. And we'll get to that later in this show as well. Las Vegas also reported a trace of snow on February 10th of 2019. Now, there's something to talk about on this one. Last time the airport had snow on multiple days was February of 1987, during part of a minimum, by the way. Snow was once reported on as many as 5 days in February of 1949. Other years with snow multiple days in February include 1939, 1955, 1960, 1979, and 1985. A lot of these, no surprise, there's one in each decade. one in each decade. And we don't have the 40s on here, but it's close enough. And that will also go along with an article I'll be talking to you guys about later. Tons of footage of this snow, the second snow, we should say, in Vegas that we've talked about this year. So February's not over yet, and we'll take a look at what the weather pattern is doing here for the rest of this month of February going into the first month of March. So will we see multiple more days of February snow? That will remain to see. And some unfortunate news, 4 killed as flash floods hit Crete and Greece. Let's take a look again, once again, at watchers.news. Says here, flash flooding hit the Greek island of Crete on February 16th and the 17th, sweeping away one vehicle with 4 people inside. The island was hit hard by a cold front affecting parts of the country since last week with heavy rain and strong winds. Now, according to the Greek National News Agency, a young woman made a telephone call to the fire brigade around 1 o'clock local time, February 17th, that her car her husband was driving was being swept away by overflowing the Gerpotanimos River. Sorry about that if I butchered it. I have a feeling I did. Bodies of all 4 people, a young married couple, wife, sister, and her mother, were found on Monday, February 18th. They had been reportedly returning from a wedding celebration when their car was swept away by floodwaters. 2 calls were made to emergency services from the car, but rescue crews were unable to reach them in time despite a massive search operation, reported the National Herald. Ships were docked at ports still Saturday due to gale force winds, while farmers have reported lots of damage due to flooding. I talked about this a couple nights ago. I don't expect anybody in the United States to be able to plant on time this year. Whether or not how cold we stay is not the question. It's the moisture that's continuing to fall, and we are in quite a pattern right now, and I'll show you guys that as well. But right now, the South dealing with floods. California's almost fixed its drought issue, and there's still more rain to come. We're on a slight break coming up, but this is just the beginning of reports that we're going to start seeing about how farmers are reporting damage from these flood events, and with that is going to be another delayed planting, I do believe. Again, check out our website to get all of the links to all these articles that we're covering tonight. Explosive activity at Etna forces partial airport closure, aviation color code red here in Italy. Let's take a look once again to watchers.news. And explosive activity is taking place at Etna's northeast crater, producing significant volcanic ash in the vicinity of the volcano. The Toulouse VAAC reported 7:43 UTC on February 18th, 2019. The aviation code has been raised to red, and ash has caused partial closures of airports. Airport officials said they're only allowing 6 landings per hour, adding that some flights had to be diverted. Let's take a look at a little bit of YouTube action here. Decent little plume of smoke rising from the crater here, just the northeast section. Quite a sight if you're skiing at that time, I'll tell you that. Goodness. Absolutely beautiful pictures here. And again, folks, whenever you're capturing images of events like this or just storms, and so many times we see this too, where some of these folks that aren't used to tornadoes, they're standing right in front of it before they realize they got to get to shelter. This means serious damage here. All right, so we'll leave the link in our website. You guys can go to our website and check out the articles in the same order. So if you wanted to, you could easily just scroll along at the website while listening to the broadcast, because here at the very top of where we do the broadcast from is an embedded version of our video on YouTube. So you'll be able to press play and listen to it in real time as you're actually scrolling through the, how should we say, the agenda, so to speak. All right, let's go back to watchers.news one more time. And this is something to talk about. Los Angeles, California received 9.85 inches of rain so far this year, more than it received the entire year of 2018. The first thing that pops into my mind when I read that stat is SPACEWEATHER.com, where they start showing us the increase in cosmic rays And I remember seeing the California area 13 to 19% increase in cosmic rays. And the Northeast was the same, about 19% increase in cosmic rays. So, and that was 2 years ago. So I can only imagine last year being 7.8 for the whole entire year as the cosmic ray situation continues to increase. Our magnetosphere is very weak right now. And I showed you that on the SDO. When you don't have any solar wind penetrating Earth, no sunspots, no solar flares, the magnetic connection to the Earth is weak right now as well. This will continue to allow a bombarding of cosmic rays in the atmosphere, which only supercharge particles, basically, that hype up. It's like giving a raindrop steroids or giving a snowflake steroids or system steroids. That's what cosmic rays does to the weather. It seeds the clouds. It fuels the power. And some of these storms where it gives you more moisture than actually expected. And I think a lot of these forecast models, I heard Joe talk about this too, how bad they've been, how off the Europeans been, how off the GFS has been. I mean, we look to these models and we'd like to think that we have a certain grasp on what's happening in the future. But I think what we're looking at is that nobody is taking in consideration the cosmic ray effect on our weather systems. And therefore, that's why I think a lot of these forecasts have just been way off. But anyway, continue to read. While Los Angeles sees about 14 inches of rain in a full year, probably says they've this year is 250 millimeters. This is about as more as they've had in 2018. There's little doubt that 19 has featured plenty of rain so far, with an outstanding 9.85 inches of rain reported at the global warming LAX airport and 11.42 inches in downtown Los Angeles. Impressive. It's probably more a commentary on how bad 2018 was and how busy 2019 has been. While all that rain caused floods and mudslides and wildfire burn scar areas, it also helped the drought-stricken area state to snap out of some of the worst drought conditions in the South. And this is what I'm talking about, right here. Look at all the white. Guys, coming out of summer, this was brown and red. We've seen significant increases, for sure, with this drought, as far as declining. I can handle the yellows. The yellow is easy to take care of, guys. You're just a few more rainstorms away from helping you regulate your drought situation. But what we had coming out of summer into fall was reds, browns, yellows, oranges, and now we are this is dramatically this is dramatically decreased since the last time we talked about this, guys, which was just a week ago. Potent storms tracked through the West Coast states this past week, pushing to year-to-date precipitations totals above 6 inches in most of a broad region that includes areas along west of the Cascades, the California coastline, the Sierra Nevada, and the Sacramento Valley. A few spots in the central and northern Sierra Nevada recorded over 30 inches of precipitation since the beginning of this year. 60 inches of snow has piled up in the Sierra Nevada, and the continued abundant precipitation prompted more improvement in drought monitor as all dryness was removed from the west central California, including the Bay Area vicinity. I mean, yeah, nice job. That's the only thing that we could applaud. This is the silver lining of this, but the worst part is that these folks are beginning to worry. This kind of rainfall, and we still have the remainder of 2019. Now remember, their rainy season starts in November. I believe it ends somewhere around April. Somebody in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong on that. So let's just say we have a very powerful March like we did in February, and then we start back up in November, kicking it off like this, maybe worse. Again, cosmic ray increase by then. I mean, this is going to be a blockbuster year as far as precipitation There's no way possible, maybe I'm wrong, but there's no way possible that it just remains dry for the rest of the year in California. There's no way. All right, and I found this today on what's up with that? Influence of solar activity on European rainfall. And this goes along with some of the things that I'm talking about tonight in our podcast. And I read this. Well, I skimmed through it, the majority of it. And I'm going to read parts of this. A balanced level of precipitation provides the basis for a wide range of economic and social activities in Europe. Particularly agriculture, drinking water supply, and inland waterway transport are directly affected. However, the amount of rain fluctuates strongly from year to year. While it may pour torrentially one year, rain may remain absent for weeks in another. The population is used to this variability and knows how to deal with it. It goes on to talk about that as part of an agricultural consultation, Ludger Lorenz analyzed decades of rainfall records of his home weather station in Munster and noticed a constant up and down that followed, get this, an 11-year rhythm, especially in February. After detailed examination, it was clear that this rhythm correlated closely with the activity of the sun, the well-documented 11-year sunspot cycle. Lorenz next teamed up with two colleagues to examine the extent to which it was observed. Pattern from Munster and is also reproducible in other parts of Germany and Europe, and whether the phenomenon also exists for other months of the year. They also said that they gathered the precipitation data collected in Europe since the beginning of the 20th century. The physicist Demetrius then developed a computer algorithm to determine the similarity of changes in rainfall and solar activity. All 39 European countries and every one of the 12 months of the year were quantified over a total of 115 years using mathematical correlations. In order to introduce possible delay effects, the data series of rain and sunspots were systematically checked for shifts. For this purpose, the time series were gradually shifted in time against each other like combs. The respective change of the correlation quality was noted. The multi-dimensional data obtained in this way were evaluated for systematic trends by geoscientist Sebastian Lewing and visualized cartographically. Just a lot of things that I find interesting here recently this year. I thought 2018 was a lot of disclosure. Now we're starting to see papers, and by the way, the original publication is listed here in the link below. But now we're seeing more and more correlation charts, correlation papers being written, and especially the ones that affect the 11-year cycle. Starman has a brilliant chart that shows plenty of correlation, ups and downs. And I've got another article in tonight's show as well that talks about the sun being the driver, but this one's concerning. NASA hides page saying the sun was primary climate driver and clouds and particles are more important than greenhouse gases. Yeah, it's blocked. Pulling up this article here. Zero Hedge asks, what the hell are NASA hiding? The NASA site used to have a page titled, What the Primary Forcings of Earth Systems? ? In 2010, this page said that the sun is the major driver of Earth's climate, that it controls all major aspects, and we may be on the cusp of an ice age. Furthermore, NASA science said things like clouds and albedo and aerosol behavior can have more powerful cooling effects that outdo warming effect of CO2. Unbelievable. This page is now saying it's denied. But here is what the archived paragraph used to read on this page. The sun is the primary forcing of Earth's climate system. Sunlight warms our world. Sunlight drives atmospheric and oceanic circulation patterns. Sunlight powers the process of photosynthesis that plants need to grow. Sunlight causes convection, which carries warmth and water vapor up into the sky, where clouds form and bring rain. In short, the sun drives almost every aspect of our world's climate system and makes possible life as we know it. That's a very strong statement. Other important forcings of Earth's climate systems include variables as clouds, airborne particulate matter, and surface brightness. Each of these varying features of Earth's environmental has the capacity to exceed the warming influence of greenhouse gases, cause our world to cool. For example, increased cloudiness will give more shade to the surface while reflecting more sunlight back into space. Haven't heard that before, have we? Increased airborne particles, or aerosols, will scatter or reflect more sunlight back into space, thereby cooling the surface. Major volcanic eruptions can inject so much aerosol into the atmosphere that as it spreads around the globe, it reduces sunlight and causes the Earth to cool. Likewise, increasing the surface area of highly reflected surface types, such as ice sheets, reflects greater amounts of sunlight back into space and causes Earth to cool. Scientists are using NASA satellites to monitor all of the aforementioned forcings of Earth's climate system to better understand how they are changing over time and how any changes in them affect the climate. Now, if everybody is watching this or will watch this later, you have to screenshot this. You have to let this sink in. Show this to your friends. Show this to anybody who doubts you. And then when they go to the site, well, I can't find it on the site. You superimposed it. Show them this link where we unveil where it's been archived, obviously, but has been removed as well. This is so important. And 2010, was anybody talking about the grand solar minimum? No. Not really. There might have been some of you hardcore solar physicists and solar scientists out there that were observing conditions that were leading to it. But when you look at things like this from NASA, and now you go there and you see this instead. So you have to ask yourself, why are they hiding this? And this we've unveiled this over and over and over again. Those that receive funding for that global warming lie, that money is riding on that lie. I bet you that nobody even realized that was on their website. No one cared because they probably thought nobody else went to this page. That's the sad part. But now it's gone. This is just basically repeating the article. Here's the comments. Hides the page saying the sun. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. I like this. Joe, this is a major find. Great work. I love how you get so many likes from people who didn't notice find. Someone found it was missing, then found it was on way back. What is your issue? You know, it shouldn't be taken down from its original site. I think people know, especially those of the AGW crowd, they know how effective this would be standing on NASA's website. The Wayback Machine captured the same NASA. So they caught this before, but you know the point is, why are they hiding this? Why are they hiding this? And it's because, oh wait, the Wayback Machine has not archived that URL. I don't know what's going on here. Somebody can help me with that in the comments, please. Apparently, there's no way to get this article at this point except for what we see here that's been archived. So I'll dig more into this, folks, because this to me looks very damning as far as why are we even talking about global warming anymore if this was actually up on NASA's site. But like I said, I'll do some more checking into that. And, you know, not only did thousands of kids in the UK walk out of class for global warming, I think this is a low blow The article here at Climate Depot talks about the kids that left school, basically saying time to heed the deeply moving voice of our youth. Yeah, it was the teachers that said, hey, you want to get out of school for a little bit? Let's strike for climate change. Over 1,000 children, by the way, were allowed to participate by walking out of their daily lessons to fight about something they had no idea about, totally manipulated. I promise you, maybe a small handful of these students are aware of climate change. And it's not just in the UK. As I was, right before I went on the air, I was skimming through the articles once again on what's up with that. And here I find an article 2 days later from the 15th that children climate change strike spreads to the USA. So now there's reports on the 16th, on the 9th Friday of her strike. Oh, 9th Friday. Goodness, 13-year-old Alexandra wakes a dozen emails, scores of Twitter notifications, and good news from the other side of the planet. Students in China want to join her movement. Boy, this is unfortunate that this is snowballing in support. I believe the education system right now is already dumbing our children down to begin with the Common Core and these curriculums that don't seem challenging whatsoever. If you have a child in public school, you know what I'm talking about. And now we're encouraging children to walk out of class because these politicians and so-called leaders know that children tug on the heartstrings of millions. And, if we're going to fight climate change, we got to do it for the kids, right? I mean, that's basically what the people that stand on this side of the fence are trying to do. They want to manipulate your emotions and make you feel like a bad person because you're hurting the children. And here's where they're putting them into the media now. These people, most of these kids probably don't even care about this back and forth fight between global warming and global cooling. But yet they're right here in the middle of it, protesting, basically being told that mankind is destroying our planet. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like that we don't pollute our planet. There's too much trash on the ground, too much trash in our rivers and oceans. I'm not going to sit here and act like that our planet's not in bad shape that way. Humans do impact our climate as far as how much pollution we put in it, how much... What's that? Pesticides, trash, chemicals. It's a dirty planet, I get that. But the one thing that we try to drive here on this channel is that it's not man that's causing the climate change. The pollution of the air is not helping climate change that's happening natural. And like I said, we are seeing the effects of a solar minimum right now. And one will say 2020 is the beginning of the super grand solar minimum. And others are saying 2031. Some are saying 2044. Either way, we're now wasting efforts and time of our children and teaching them something that's false. We are now we are watching our world leaders and government officials corrupting the minds of children all over the world now. All right. Rant over. I just wanted to bring that up. I thought it was significant to show you this article with the UK, and then I found that also as well. And yes, AOC continues to dominate the headlines. She says that America should lead the world. There's some funny things in this article. First of all, she doesn't realize that we're the only country that was in the Paris Treaty that actually reached not quite the goals, but we were the leading country in the world that decreased the CO2 emissions. And she says we need to lead. She doesn't even know her own information. But anyway, says here, I love this. I'm going to read a lot of this, maybe not. I don't know. 29-year-old ex-bartender and freshman U.S. Representative Democrat New Yorker Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez received thunderous environmentalist and media acclaim when she introduced her new GND, that's what we're calling it now, resolution in the House, and Ed Markey, Democrat of Massachusetts, submitted it in the Senate. It was quickly endorsed and co-sponsored by scores of House and Senate Dems, including many who want to run for president. But within days, the GND was subjected to rigorous analysis and ridicule by energy experts, President Trump, Republicans, conservative pundits, and even some Democrats, asserting yet again that man-made climate change poses an existential threat to people and planet. With only a dozen years left before total disaster strikes, the GND demands that the United States convert to 100% renewable energy within 10 years. It also proclaims an equally urgent need to abandon free enterprise capitalism in favor of a, get this folks, 100% socialist and economic and social justice policies. What does that mean, you say? What does that mean? Well, in the social justice and fairness arena, the GND provides that every American will get governmental guaranteed jobs with family-sustaining wages and pensions, free college or trade school, healthy organic food, safe, affordable, adequate, and energy-efficient homes, and support for ethnic and economic communities that historically were harmed first and most by dirty energy. Did you get all that? Yeah. Okay. The original draft resolution, since replaced on AOC's website, even called for getting rid of farting cows. That's right. You feed those bastards some Beano, all right? You mix it in with the feed. Enough. That was sarcastic. To prevent methane from increase above its current minuscule 0.0000017% of the atmosphere. So bugs, not beef, in our diets. No more cheese, milk, yogurt, or Baskin Robbins. Is it me, or does it look like not only is our government trying to tell us how to live, but also how to eat? That's right, folks. No more cheese, no more milk, no more ice cream, nothing dairy. Cows, sorry, they're contributing to global warming, so they've got to go, right? I mean, basically, why doesn't AOC just think of a plan to commit major genocide on cows? I mean, that would help that 0.00017%. You can't make this shit up, guys. And I had to use the S word on that because this fails to, people don't understand how much it's going to cost and what some of the ridiculous things that are in this bill. Also here, Ms. Cortez has no such qualms. Whether asked implementing her GND would require massive government intervention, she replied, yes, it does. I have no problem saying that. Moreover, she added, we shouldn't point fingers and say China or India or Russia isn't doing anything like this. We shouldn't hold ourselves to a lower bar. We should choose to lead the world in this transition. Look, I agree with that. We should choose to lead in the world in this transition. The question is, are you paying attention at all already that we are leading the world in reduce carbon emissions? It is China, India, and Russia who are burning more fossil fuels and putting more CO2 in the atmosphere. Not that it actually matters, but if we want to point fingers, it's the truth. Lead the world in economic suicide, he writes, environmental degradation, plummeting living standards, shorter lifespans, and societal, I don't even know what that word is, societal upheaval would be more accurate description of her GND. So basically, there's not even a happy medium about this proposal for this Green Deal. What they're not doing, discussing, or even think about is how they intend to achieve their energy, climate, socialist nirvana. How many trillions of dollars it would cost. How many millions of good jobs would be eliminated before their promised job creation programs theoretically kick in. And exactly how they plan to deal with enormous human and environmental impacts. AOC says don't worry about the price tags, just tax the rich more and borrow trillions more. Whether the cost is $1 trillion per year or 40 or even $100 trillion in the total deal. That's possible. That is an ignorant, cavalier response either way. She must provide the numbers, calculations, and wherewith transparency with the full debate. I agree. You got to check this out. Energy journalist Ron Bailey estimates the G&D would require installing some 150,000 offshore wind turbines, 335 onshore wind turbines, 75 million residential photovoltaic systems, 200.75 commercial solar systems, 46,000 utility-scale solar facilities sprawling across millions of acres. My guess is that it would require a lot more than plus millions of Tesla-style batteries. Manufacturing and installing all those units and the transmission lines to connect them would require removing hundreds of billions of tons of rock to reach and extract tens of billions of tons of ores to create billions of tons of metals, concrete, and other materials that would be expensive, fossil fuel intensive, and habit destructive. If it is done overseas, as most of it is done today, it would involve virtually no health, safety, environmental, human rights, child labor, or fair pay protections. That is not acceptable. There's more. Contrary to the claims that the GND advocates, electricity rates would likely skyrocket to at least 38 cents per kilowatt. Families and businesses already paying in Germany and in places like where our friend Henrik is, Denmark. That's 4 times as much as Americans now pay in states where coal, gas, nuclear, and hydro generate most electricity. Those rates are job killers for factories, hospitals, schools, and businesses. So, hello, I hope my friend Brad is listening. Mr. Brad, you said Germany is doing the Green Deal. Look how it's working out for them. Yeah, look how that's working out for them, Brad. Okay, because of the green energy, they've lost jobs. They're paying 4 times the amount of electricity and energy that we do because of the green-like policies. This is what's going to happen to the United States if we adopt this policy. And it might go more than 4 times the amount. We're a lot bigger than Germany. We have a lot more people to supply than Germany. People, this is real. And this is something that I don't want us to get in there and sweep a vote through the House and Senate and like, okay, let's implement it. I can't imagine it's going to get support. There's not enough Republican or Democrat senators to jump on board. And I don't think there's any Republicans that want to do this either. I mean, the one thing about the Conservative Party is that they don't want to spend trillions of dollars in a year at a time. I mean, it's embarrassing enough. I know this latest budget deal, the government is spending like $1 trillion or more for the entire budget for everything to run the government for the year or two. But when you're talking about possibility of 10, 20, 30, 40 trillion per year over 10 years, where do you draw the line? Why even print money? Just make it. Just go out there and build it. At that point, money is useless. When you're spending just trillions a year on redoing the infrastructure of the country, on top of that, raising energy prices 3, 4, 5, 6 times as much as what they are now. I see famine and poverty just from this deal. Forget about the grand solar minimum. All this is going to happen with this deal. Nobody's going to be able to afford electricity. You can't afford food with prices like that. If they're banning CO2 emitting machines to get the food to where they need to go, how much is it going to cost now for food to be shipped across the country on electric trains? I mean, the cost is going to be phenomenal for food. So forget about grand solar minimum. The Democrats are going to try to raise food prices and starve you to death without the weather affecting you. So how's that? How's that for an appetizer? All right, I'll calm down. Rant is over. Oh, one more thing, I guess. Here we go. Dem attempting to declare climate change national emergency. We knew it would happen. We knew this would happen. And here we go. Here we go. What our country should be doing right now is focusing on addressing a real national emergency and one of the most pressing issues of our time, and that is the climate crisis, said Blumenauer in his letter. If Donald Trump wants to start declaring national emergencies for fake crises, Congress should address the real ones and start with climate change. Wow. You hear that, families that have been affected by illegal immigration, this fake crisis? Anyone who's had a loved one die of a drug overdose, opioid, or heroin, most likely came from the border down south. Fake crisis. No big deal. Our country was in an opioid epidemic for 2 straight years and slowly is climbing. And I believe cannabis has something to do with that. But anyway, another senator grandstanding, telling everybody that climate change is a real concern. And so the drumbeat begins for this is what is the true manufactured crisis, and that is climate change. These Democrats giving out these damn headlines of 12 years till the end of the world. We've got 10 years to change our infrastructure. Now AOC will say, oh no, we need like 20 or 30 years to get all this done realistically. I thought you said the world was going to end in 12. Make up your mind. You just said it 2 weeks ago, and you're already changing your story. Folks, I hope it's easy to see that these politicians are playing with our life. Not just forget about worrying about natural cycles that could challenge the way we live. But if this deal goes into effect in any shape or form, this is going to be the true killer of this nation. These regulations, the outrageous prices that's going to cost the energy and food cost. You're not going to be able to eat. You're not going to be able to stay warm. You're barely going to be able to afford water. There's got to be something better out there, folks. There's got to be something better out there. I want to protect our planet. I want to do better to the environment. I want to create less pollution. I want to clean up the trash. I want clean drinking water. I just don't think that the way these politicians on the left are handling this is responsible, nor is this true research on their part. Because they're going to throw out to you that 97% of the consensus says that the science agrees that man is causing global warming. Well, listen up. And, it's been said for many years. There is no consensus in science. Point blank. Science is there to test over and over and over again. And sometimes you see the same results. And therefore a theory is formed. Okay? And right now with the new research that's been coming out over the last 10 years, really, more effectively the last 5, for sure, the drumbeat's growing louder. And, when we show you things like this, NASA throwing down a very important piece of their website, that's concerning. Again, $2.5 billion a year is awarded to weather companies, universities, NASA, NOAA, several weather agencies throughout the United States. $2.5 billion is awarded each year. And if we start talking about cooling, if we start talking about just what everything in this paragraph says right here on NASA Science Earth, what are the primary forcings of Earth system? That's it right there, guys. That's it. That's all we need. That debunks your whole global warming situation. That debunks it all. NASA acknowledges the warmth, but it also tells us what's going to cause it to cool. I feel like printing up 3.5 billion of these bad boys and just mailing them to all the addresses I can find. I mean it. And this piece of information does it for me. Open, closed. Sun drives the climate. Stupid. All right, let's take a look at some weather map action here. Thank God it's a little quieter. The 4 quarter states, you guys are seeing some snow and precipitation falling. That atmospheric river is winding down finally. But by Tuesday, we've got a big low pressure system forming out of the Gulf. It's going to take moisture from there. We're going to see snow in the Midwest, a good 5 to 8 inches in Kansas, into northern parts of Missouri, southeastern or southwestern Iowa, and Illinois. You will see the 5 to 8 range. Most of us, though, are looking at 1 to 3. Anything you see in the snow area is going to see 1 to 3 inches for the most part. And more snow for Wisconsin, Minnesota as this storm moves into Wednesday. But it's also bringing that moisture from the Gulf, so it's also bringing warmer temperatures. In the Northeast, it starts off as snow and freezing rain, but as it progresses into Thursday, we're supposed to get 1 to 3 inches here in the Northeast. I believe that will be melted by the time this storm moves through, because it's going to bring warmer temperatures into the mid-40s, and most of the states should be inundated with rain. The far tip of Maine will see snow out of this. But once again, more heavy rain for the south, guys, starting on February 19th. That's on Tuesday. More rain to the south thanks to the Gulf, providing this moisture, heavy rain through the south. As this storm leaves the Atlantic coast, another one forms in southern part of the United States, California, the Four Corner states, pretty decent-sized low-pressure system. And it's like this moisture just continues to churn from the Gulf into the south. So from the 19th through the 22nd of February, we're still looking at moisture in the south, the deep south. Another big low-pressure system forming, getting its act together by Saturday, February 23rd, soaking rains to the Ohio-Tennessee Valley. And there's going to be some concerning with flooding in southwest Ohio, guys, near the Ohio River, Cincinnati. They were already threatening to eclipse 56-foot mark not too long ago because of all the moisture they've seen down there. Now, what the GFS is signaling right now, this is going to be a massive snowstorm for parts of northwestern Missouri, half of Kansas, the northern part of, half of Nebraska, northern parts of Kansas. But look right here, the center of that low on the back side of it where the colder areas, Iowa, northwest Iowa. That should be massive amounts of snow. We're talking more than a foot. And that's going to move into Minnesota and off into Canada as the rest of us below that line of really Michigan and south gets rain. But for the south, by the 24th, finally, that is the first dry day we will see across the south part of the United States. So I'm calling it now. We need to pay attention to the southern part of the United States. Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, parts of Tennessee, and Arkansas and southern Missouri. This is very, very important. Ohio Valley, you're going to be in on a major heavy rain event, but the main concern is along the Gulf Coast here, Texas as well, from Houston on eastward, as we will see 9 days of consistent moisture. So as this storm leaves to the Atlantic, we got another one coming from the northwest. And this low-pressure system by February 27th, also more moisture coming from the Gulf, and almost a repeat of snow where the last system dropped a foot, which I'm expecting Iowa, northwest Iowa, to getting the bulk of this of a foot or more on the 23rd of February, according to the models now. A lot can change. But right now, there's a big signal we could see heavy snow in that part of the country. And then just 6 days or 3 days later, they're going to get another probably 5 to 8 inches again with this system. But look at this. Another system in the south forming. Lots of moisture from the Gulf. And again, we go into the northeast, mainly rain. But this time, when this low pressure system moves past, it's going to usher in some more cold air. Once again, a storm leaving the east coast. Moisture is still kind of hanging around, being stubborn in the south. And then here comes our next system in the northwest. Another massive system of moisture plunges down that high pressure, but at the end of this month, into beginning of March, we start to see colder air move in. Now, this is where I think we might see the next system bring a good dumping of snow. We can't really look too far into this, but the models indicating the first few days of March are pretty strong indicators that we could see some cold, maybe freezing temperatures down into the south by the first week of March. So lots of weather to talk about, lots going on in our forecast, lots of changes too, but it makes me wonder if some of the things that Joe Bastardi was talking about, the crescendo of cold, does that get delayed? And do we see the cold come in beginning of March and last throughout the March until April? Or is El Nino trying to get its act together and make a difference in temperatures? And right now, it's been struggling to stay at that 0.5 threshold. In fact, it's still technically below that. It's been below the threshold now since February 6th. 15 days below the threshold of an El Nino. If you go back further and look, we've been dropping further and further into temperatures closer to baseline ever since, December 12th. Sure, we peep back into El Nino conditions, but you guys can see it. I know I can. That constant declination in the graph where we keep bottoming out closer and closer to baseline. North Atlantic is starting to act like its winter self. It's plummeting right now down to negative 0.595 below baseline. That's Celsius. And looking at the temperatures for El Nino, still much below average. 25s across the board. 27 is the strongest temperature. And that, now folks, 28 degrees Celsius is the threshold. And there is not one temperature that indicates that El Nino strength at this point. And yet, a lot of folks are just going to go ahead and say, okay, El Nino's here. The only thing we're really seeing from this weak El Nino, and I guess the numbers could be off a little bit, give or take a few degrees, because you got to admit, we are seeing a lot of southwestern moisture and a lot of moisture across the south, which is what normally happens in El Nino season. Here lately, the last couple of weeks, we're starting to see that pattern develop, plus temperatures here in the east and the northeast between the mid 30s and through the mid 40s for a few days too before we get to the first part of March. So we're going to be cold for a few days and then kind of winter, but not really too cold. So it's worth watching anyhow. All right, I'm going to bring Mari over and ask her to say hello to everybody. She's been keeping y'all entertained tonight in the chat. Mari is the producer of the show, and also she is our webmaster as well for the grandsolarminimum.com. Mari, how you doing tonight? How's things going?
Did you just call me master? I'm just joking. I'm a wise ass. I'm sorry. Hi, everyone in the chat. It is... I'm like a skipping record with this group. Every time you call me on, I come on and I'm like, how wonderful are these people? But what really? I'm going to read off some of the comments.
Okay.
Just because.
This should be good.
We got a lot of new faces and I want to say hi to them. You know what I mean? Like, we have a lot of people that have come back time and time again. So, Susan says, hi, Jake and Mari. You're my favorite YouTube host. Always look forward to your company. I thought that was really nice.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
We try. We've been gone. You said our last show was Friday. It was actually Wednesday.
It was Wednesday. Wow. So almost a week.
It's been almost a whole week we've been off. Brian Foltz, he wants to know if there's any way he can help. And honestly, your participation in the community, joining the chat, sharing, liking, participating in the Facebook groups,
that's the best way to help right now.
That's all we really ask. It's just
get the word out.
I am working on a FAQ section for the website, and if you have questions, certainly email them to me at Mari at WTFsky.com. Probably would be the shortest email to send it to. Let's see. Bob Paddock said they removed the page that talked about the cooling on Mars as well.
Wow.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
I have to look into that. I didn't know that. I didn't hear about it. So that's interesting. We have some regulars like Lucas, Av Team, Lane Lair. E.T.'s in there. He said they can tax CO2, but they can't tax the sun.
They'll probably try after they find out it's cooling.
I want to give a shout out to the kid meteorologist.
Awesome.
He wants you to use windy. He's not happy with GFS. And I said, he looks at all models, right? And if you see something significant that's different depending on the model, you'll point it out. Jake cannot see the chat when he is live. It's too distracting, so I moderate the chat, and I do take my notes down. Let's see. I'm just trying to see. Someone asked if Washington State will see snow come around again like they had a few weeks ago. I wasn't paying attention to your forecast because I was in the chat chatting away. Do you know?
I don't think we're right now. The last I checked on our GFS forecast, it doesn't look like not the kind of precipitation that we've seen. Now, right now, I mean, they've got a little brief snowstorm coming up on Wednesday, and then that moves out of the vicinity in a day or two, and then another brief system that comes in. I mean, you guys are going to get your fair share of moisture. That machine is not turning off really until about the 28th of February, and which then you'll be looking at the beginning of March with rain and snow in the first 6 days. So I don't know if it's going to be quite as heavy, but it does look like there's a shot for the same kind of precipitation in the coming weeks for that area. So Joe Bastardi best said it. You know, when a storm leaves the East Coast, there's going to be another one coming in on the Northwest side, and that's what's happening. That pattern is true in its place. Now, it may not be cold all over like we once thought, but it's still the pattern that he thought would happen is happening.
I just want to shout out a couple more. I'll do a couple more people. I mean, Marianne James, Tammy Brennan, Laney. Thank you for the super chat. That was very, very kind. I know you said no shout out. So sorry, but you know I have to.
She can't help
herself. To do it. I can't control myself. Thank you. Very kind. And you know, let's see one more. Spencer of North. He says, "I'm a sweetheart, Jake."
Well, she tries. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight for the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight. It was a pleasure giving you the news headlines and talking about some Grand Solar Minimum stuff related to the weather and a little bit of policy and stuff. But we try to mix it up here at this channel. We can't always just keep it about weather. We have to really correlate everything that revolves around this whole situation. We hope to see you guys again on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, we will talk soon, folks. Take care.